Yeah, Homer led the league in tackles with 85. The deep ball for Darius Prince, and Philadelphia's on the board first.
On the draw, this is Grayson Allen. And Allen weaving his way all the way down to the 22.
10-yard line, 5. Mayfield, Dancy, all around. Throw it as far as he can throw it. Jump ball coming. Crazy stuff. Not this time.
And you want to be a wide receiver, you're going to have to take a little bit of a hit like that as Brown got him in that shoulder, but watch. Those are teeth.
Do we have a dentist on staff here?
All right, after a week hiatus, we are back with another episode of Around the Indoor Football World. Today we're going to do it a little bit different. We're going to start with the IFL and then work our way back to the AIF. So for those of you joining us, if you're an indoor football fan like we are, make sure to hit that like button, comment, subscribe. If you are not familiar with the man below me, we are joined by Oman Rashan. Borja, how are you doing this morning, sir?
I'm doing great. Great to have some Friday night games last night. I mean, one for each time block. And I'm just glad to be on talking about the Indoor Football League, which, like, for me, I mean, I love covering the league. It's more relaxed than, like, I'm a college guy, but grew up around the indoor game, whether it be the New England Surge, growing up in Massachusetts, or the Duke City Gladiators now / New Mexico Stars when I was in middle school. But just love covering the game. So, yeah, glad to be on.
Very nice. Well, we're happy to have you as always. Krish, I see the 4-0 tag, my friend. Obviously, that means you're a Massachusetts Pirates fan. How do you feel this morning?
You know, I feel like, unlike San Antonio, right, we don't talk about it, we do it. So I'm really, really happy. We're 4-0. I feel like we have a great group of guys. I can't tell you how great that locker room culture is, Like, overall, we have a great locker room culture. Our guys understand the assignment. We don't speak, I feel like we know what it is, and we just go do it. And I think that's the difference from us and other teams. It's like we don't talk about championship mindset. We actually do it. We preach it. Coach Miller, he talks a lot to the team about playing a perfect game. And we still haven't achieved a perfect game. We didn't play perfect last night. We let up 29 points on the board, and 2 touchdowns busted coverage, 1 kickoff return TD. We should not have, let those up, and we understand that. And so now we're going to go back to the drawing board, this week. One thing I want to point out is our running back, Tavion Thomas. I went up to him before the game, and I said, man, like, they wrote you off. They don't know you, but I do. I'm like, so tonight's your time to go and show them who you are, show them why you're him. And he looked at me, he's like, I know, man, like, I'm going to go do it. And, like, I'm like, it's finally your time. He went out and he had 137 total yards, right? And, honestly, like, that's his first game in 2 years. That's his first football game in 2 years, and he performed like that in the absence of Jimmy Robinson. So we have so many playmakers on our team. We can spread the ball out. Alejandro got hurt in the first half, so we put Dagenhart in for the second half. Alejandro got hurt in the third quarter because he took a dirty hit from one of Anson Yarborough's defensive linemen. But he took a dirty hit. I think he'll be fine for the next game. I mean, it was a pretty bad hit. He was out for the game, but Dagenhart came in. He held the ship. He threw 1 touchdown. The offense ran pretty smoothly. We just kind of ran out the clock from there on. But Zico had a kickoff return, which was huge. So we went on every phase of the game. Gable was perfect from kickoff. PATs, he went 7 for 7. Field goals, he went 1 for 2 because one of them was used at a punt. So all phases, we won all phases, and hence we won the game. So I'm really proud of my squad. For sure.
As you should be. We talked about it in our group chat quite a bit, and it's something that I will continue to talk about as the season goes on. I think we're watching a championship team in action. Michael said that, I echo it because honestly, Massachusetts is always one of the most talented teams in the league. You know, I'm going to give credit where it's due. I am not a Pirates fan, to be completely honest, but you have to respect what they're able to do, respect the talent they're able to attract. And ultimately, it's a year after year after year in process. And it doesn't matter if there's a USFL, XFL merger that makes a bunch of players available or there isn't. They find outdoor talent every season and continue to bring it in. And that's why we're where we are at right now. You know, to be completely honest, I didn't know that they would be 4-0 at this point, but they are. And that's a great start to the season because, as we all know, once momentum kicks that wrong way, it's hard to get that snowball rolling back down the right side of the hill. So, in this game, obviously, by the end of it, it was quite lopsided. Chris, remind me of the score: 52.
It was 54-29.
54-29. Sorry about that. I didn't see the actual end score. I swapped over and was watching the Colorado game. But basically, in this game, we saw a change at quarterback for Iowa, which was, at least in my mind, very unexpected. You know, they put DJP on the bench. As we all know, he's coming off a major injury last season that kind of prevented him from playing at all in 2023. And now we see Kyle King take over. Chris, you have a little bit of information. It sounds like this might be you know, a move that sticks. What are your thoughts on this move? And then we'll go to Omar next.
You know, DJ is a great guy. You know, I talked to him after the game, and I feel for him, right? Like he's coming off a terrible injury. This offense is not designed for him, in my opinion, at all. You know, I felt like 2 years ago there was a lot more design runs, a lot more different things. The offensive line and him had no chemistry. I was sitting in the first row. I saw it like constantly, like the sideline. They have no chemistry, no coaching on that team at all. They were at the 1 yard line. And instead of doing a design run, they decided to pass the ball when they had Robert Washington, a former running back who was with the Philadelphia Eagles practice squad for a year. So why wouldn't you, hand it off to him? And he was mad, and it's just certain little things like that, little details that offense is missing that turns into big problems for them. They put Kyle in. His first pass, he threw a screen. The ball hit the turf. He couldn't even get the ball, that far to the receiver. It hit the dirt and bounced up. The second play, he got sacked. Third play, he ran it in for a touchdown. He came in. Next play, threw a touchdown deep to number 3, the receiver, Williams. And then next drive came in and got a safety. So they told me, they're like, he played his ass off. He played amazing for a rookie. I'm like, I don't know about amazing, but I thought he played well, decent. But I don't know how much he gives your offense more than DJP does, honestly. I think they're forgetting about how good DJP is because they haven't seen it in so long. And so, I don't know. When you have a player like who played like that at that caliber before, I feel like you should still keep giving them chances. But at the same time, it might be the reality that DJP might not be the same player anymore, right? Because of that knee injury. Maybe he was really struggling throwing the football. Really. Like, I saw him get up after a couple hits. He could hardly, he's limping back. Like, it just, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if he's the same DJP anymore. So that's my whole thing.
Correct me if I'm wrong. He's left-handed, right?
No, he's a righty.
Okay. Must be thinking of somebody else. But, yeah, either way, knee injury, that's definitely going to affect your ability to throw if it's not 100%. You can't plant correctly. So definitely kind of interesting to see how it's all working out for him. I don't think he's done by any stretch. Maybe he just needs more time to get 100%, and then we see him re-enter the lineup. But Omar, what are your thoughts on this situation?
Yeah, I mean, I think Chris's point on there not being a lot of design runs was kind of alarming. And I get he had a knee injury and everything, but it seems like the Barnstormers are running Kurt Warner's Iowa Barnstormers offense. Not many design quarterback runs, but I mean, from what I saw too, I don't think the line did him any favors because the Pirates pass rush was looking nice last night, and I think it forced DJP to not go through his progressions at times where he kind of took like a run first mentality, and also too like Chris said, maybe that goes along with with confidence in throwing after the injury, but yeah, I just think that the Iowa Barnstormers need to relook at their strategy if DJP is going to continue to start, because in my opinion, I think to win in the IFL, you need a dynamic quarterback. I mean, you just look across the board, all the dynamic quarterbacks in the league right now. Like, I mean, of course, TJ Edwards comes to mind. Of course, you got even Jerome Johnson, who was like thoroughly impressive last night, I guess. I mean, since we're going to talk about him later on, but Jerome Johnson starting to come on the scene. Even a low-scoring team like the Green Bay Blizzard, I think they're starting to get a mobile quarterback with Skylar Perry, which I was delighted to see, because as a Black college football fan, like Skylar Perry in the spring of 2021 was electric. But without going on too much, like I think you need a dynamic quarterback, and I think Iowa needs to relook at their scheme and possibly, honestly, add more read option to their scheme, because almost every IFL team, if not every IFL team, with the exception of San Diego, because Nate Davis is pretty old, has read option in their scheme, like as pretty much a foundation of their scheme. So that's just my thoughts. I hope things get better in Iowa, but they do look like one of the worst teams in the league, in my opinion.
Yeah, which is disappointing to see at the least. I mean, obviously we've had Coach Mogs on here. I'm a huge fan of him as a person. I always am rooting for him and his team to succeed. I like DJP as a player. I honestly think he's one of the more dynamic quarterbacks in the league, although he hasn't shown it this season, due to the coming off an injury. But, it's interesting to kind of see these teams start to separate themselves already this early in the season. We see teams like Vegas that's 3-0. We see Massachusetts is 4-0. But ultimately, it seems to run through the quarterback. This is a very quarterback-driven league, and like you said, it's the quarterbacks that are mobile, that can move around, that can escape the pocket, can do some of that design runs that are typically finding success in the IFL. So it's definitely been kind of interesting to track how everything's been affected. But ultimately, we're going to move on to the Vegas game, which was a great game. If you didn't catch all of it, it's basically every game this season for the IFL, and I'm sure you guys feel the same, has been one of those games where you don't want to turn it off. High scoring, entertaining football, except maybe one game by Duke City, but we'll keep our mouths shut on that one. But what are your thoughts on the Vegas game, Omar?
Yeah, so I thought it was really great. Like the thing that captured me the most, like looking at, is like Vegas. I don't know if I'm exaggerating, but they look like the fastest team in the league. Like Jerome Johnson can get out of that pocket quick, and I mean, I always love seeing HBCU quarterbacks succeed in the pros, but man, like seeing the Bowie State alum just get out of the pocket, and they're just so efficient as an offense. Like going over the box score last night, they scored 66 points while running 29 offensive plays. Like that is just dangerous. And also, too, I think something that may get lost in the shuffle is the fact that they were able to stop San Antonio to a degree. The defense wasn't perfect, but holding San Antonio to 44 points. I think there's something to be said with that, because I mean, of course, San Antonio scored 61 on San Diego. I think in week 2, and that's just a great offense with Sam Castronova. Just like Castronova, I really think he's a poised passer. I like the way that Castronova gets the ball out of his hands quick. So it's not an easy task to do, but I mean, Vegas looks so fast. Jerome Johnson, Caleb Hawley getting involved in the run game as well. So I mean, I think they're a dark horse out of the West, honestly, to make a good playoff run. The West looks very stacked, I think.
It always is, it seems like, right? But this season in particular, like you said, San Antonio looking great. Sam Castronova is one of the best quarterbacks in any indoor football league. I don't care what the name is. Chris, what are your thoughts on this game?
So, I'll get into the game, but I kind of want to get into before the game too. A lot of people think I'm really hard on San Antonio, right? A lot of people think I am. But it's because, Coach Tom Menas tries to put himself out there a lot, right? And when you sit there before the season and you say, oh, I'm going to go undefeated, I'm going to beat teams by 30, 40, and this is on multiple shows. This is not just one show, right? And, Matt's not that great. We'll beat them, fine. Like, I screen recorded all those things, so when the season is over, I can repost it, right? Because I keep receipts. And my biggest issue is the IFL is a different game. I mean, we could sit here and have an argument. Is indoor football harder than arena football, right? I mean, we could really sit there and have that argument. It's a lot more intentional, I feel like, in my opinion. Looking at the game, Las Vegas controlled them. I mean, look at the receiving core: Caleb Hawley, Quinn Randolph, C.J. Wyndham. I mean, they have so many offensive weapons. Jerome does a great job at diversifying targets. He's not focused on one receiver. He spreads out the ball like crazy. I mean, if you look at the box score last night, that says it all. TJ caught one, Caleb had a touchdown, Quinn ran one in, caught two. Like it's really amazing what they got going there. Their defense is something special. Number 25, Luke Calhoun. He's crazy. He's a razor. He runs so fast. Um, they're a really great team. I mean, I could see them making a run championship in the West. I mean, I know the West is stacked right now, but I don't know. Honestly, right now I look at San Antonio and I look at Coach Fuller and I look at how great of a job he's doing, and I feel so bad for him because all it's going to be preached on the team show is, oh, it's a team. It's a team. It's not a team. It's a defense. So there's a difference. So I'm really praying my boy Coach Fuller keeps doing his thing. DJ keeps get to his love on the receiving side of these things. But I'm really worried about San Antonio because they have a tough one coming up against Tucson, and Tucson really wants to beat San Antonio. So
Come on now, it's not just a defense. Sam Castronova, 27 of 37, 265 yards and 4 touchdowns. He also ran for 25 yards and a touchdown. One of the premier dual threats in this league. You know it. I know it. Give me just a second, and we'll discuss the upcoming game.
yeah, I mean Sam Casanova, like obviously, he's the reason why that team is still in games, right? But that's the thing, like it needs to go further than one player and like their special teams are not great at all.
Yeah.
I don't think the special team unit is atrocious. In order to win a football game, in my opinion, you have to win 2 of 3 units, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I know a lot of coaches say all 3 phases, but you can win without your defense being great. Usually San Diego's defense is, I mean, they're solid, right? They get stops, but they're not great by any means. They're not amazing. They get the job done. They make 1 or 2 stops a game, right? You don't have to win a championship with both sides of the ball being amazing. But what you do have to is you have to have a defense that can at least make a stop. San Antonio didn't make 1 stop yesterday. That's the issue. So.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, I definitely agree. And I think, and I kind of wonder if it's a shift from the arena game to the indoor game, because until last year, I mean, I was under the impression it was the same type of game, honestly.
Honestly, until you really sit and look back at the rules and see how offenses are schemed and defenses are schemed, you really don't realize the differences on the surface if you're just a casual fan, to be completely honest. And I didn't at first. And then, hearing how much more creative you can be in indoor football than you can be in arena football, it is more difficult to play. Chris touched on it a little bit, and he said that's a debate we can have. Well, I firmly believe there's no debate there. The freedom you have as a coach in indoor football versus the arena rules, or at least the classic arena rules, it's just night and day. It's not even comparable. With what the jackbacker can do, with what you can do with the mic and stuff like that. There's a lot of different variables that kind of open it up a little bit. But definitely excited to see how a lot of these coaches transition to the AFL, but that's a subject for another day. Obviously a lot of them have indoor experience and they're going to the AFL game. So I expect a lot of indoor styled offenses in the AFL this season. But moving on to the next game. Sorry about my absence there for a second. My young one is going nuts right now. But basically, we've got the Quad City Steamrollers visiting the Frisco Fighters, which before we get into this game, Omar, you and I talked about it off camera a little bit. The Frisco Fighters just picked up a couple really talented defensive backs Jeff Ejicom and Kobe Perry, if I'm not mistaken. I know you're really high on Jeff. What do you like
Absolutely.
about that move?
I like that he played for Army. No, I'm just kidding. But no, with Jeff Ejeckham, I mean, honestly, I love I guess it's the size that he brings at safety. Because a little bit of background on him, he's a physical player because he played wide receiver in Army's triple option scheme. So he can block. And I kind of want to see him, and that's I guess kind of a spoiler for the article I'm writing. I'm writing for the site. I want to see him block on the edge, play receiver. So he played receiver in Army scheme, but he did really good with Vegas the past couple of years, just transitioning to safety. He's about 6'4", 200 pounds, if not more, probably 220. Now he's probably bulked up, but I love the move with the Jekka. He's a player I know I know more about him than I do about Perry, but he's just a physical player. He brings size to the secondary. He can win jump ball battles, and I mean, if needed on offense, he can open up the edge for TJ Edwards and of course now Larry Harrington, the slash out there for Frisco. So I mean, yeah, those are just great signings for Frisco, especially at Jeckham. And if you are a veteran or a active duty military person, active duty Army person in the Frisco area, I think you should make the trip, support Jeff and Jeckham. He's a great story for sure. So that's just all I gotta say. That's my shameless plug.
No, that's not shameless plug at all. Please, by all means, support all our armed forces members, whether they're current or past duty. They're making sacrifices that the rest of us regular people will never quite understand. Even if they've never been deployed, they're still serving their country. So just keep that in mind. Make sure you're at least treating them with respect, thanking them for their service. I'm a firm believer in that wholeheartedly. But it looks like one of our other hosts is up as well. So, Coach Trey, how you doing this morning, sir? You're muted. There we go.
I'm all right.
Awesome. So we are discussing the moves by Frisco to add Jeff Ejicom and Kobe Perry. What are your thoughts on these moves?
I haven't really seen the moves they made. What position do those guys play?
Kobe Perry is like an in-the-box safety, and then Jeff is kind of a jack linebacker / safety as well. He's about 6'3", 6'4", 220. Kobe, I think, is 6'1", 200 roughly. Me personally, I don't believe Frisco's issues really was on the defensive side of the ball. I believe Frisco's problems is on the offensive side. And they have to get TJ some help. TJ got to get the ball. They got to throw more than they running with TJ. Yeah, you can use TJ to run the ball, but you can't. The season too long. The season too long. So with them additions, they may have gotten better, but since they don't keep the transaction sheet up no more, it's kind of hard to keep up with the transactions. It is. At least Frisco and some teams are announcing their transactions, and that's one of these situations. That's the only reason I knew about this, and I happen to follow Kobe and Jeff, so I saw both of them posted as well. But yeah, it is a little bit frustrating that you can't see all the transactions. There's a firm belief there that other leagues are poaching their players, but
my thing is that's always existed. If you got a good product, you don't have to worry about the poaching, because if you're dealing with people and you're dealing with them in the right way, they're not going nowhere. So it kind of give you a little inside look to how people's minds work. And this is where I tell the players, you have to do what's best for you, because the league gonna do what's best for the league and the team gonna do what's best for the team. So you need to make the best decisions for yourself, because some of the people don't have the genuine intentions that they need to have. So, but that's just my take on it.
No, that's completely fair. Honestly, I would say Frisco's a good example of treating players correctly and getting them back. TJ Edwards very, very easily could have gone AFL. I know for a fact he had offers on the table had he wanted to pursue them. He did not. He went straight back home to Frisco. I think that's a testament to how they've treated him and how they've kind of welcomed him in. And and he's back where he belongs for that reason. But we're gonna move on and talk about the Frisco game. They are playing the Quad City Steamwheelers this week, which should be an interesting game. Omar, I know you've got some thoughts on this one. What are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, so I'm interested to see if Frisco plays a complete game because it feels to me like they've been playing down to their competition so far. Week 1 against Tulsa for the boot went into overtime, and I'm sure that shocked everyone. Last year's #1 seed in the Eastern Conference going overtime with Tulsa. And then the following week, excuse me, I think it was against Jacksonville, or they won I think 48-24, but. Or no, sorry, no, it was against Duke City. My bad. How can I forget? It was against Duke City. And even then, I'm a Duke City fan, and this year looks like a rebuild. For us to be within 9 points, a touchdown and a deuce of Frisco, I mean, it was pretty surprising, honestly. So I'm looking to see if they play a complete game against a lower scoring team in Quad City. But yeah, that's just what I'm looking for. Quad City is a good defense, though. They have a good defense. I know last week they held Green Bay to 32 points and only 54 passing yards. So I'm inclined to say that they're gonna key in on TJ Edwards in that run game, and it honestly might be another closer than expected game.
I could totally see that. And real quick, we're just going to go ahead and breeze on through these games. Chris, we're going to move on and talk about the Tulsa Oilers at the Sioux Falls Storm. I know you and I have talked quite a bit off camera about Billy Hall and what Sioux Falls has been able to do. What do you think about this game? Obviously we're looking at Tulsa, which is, actually been surprisingly scrappy with Daniel Smith at quarterback. Another guy that you pointed out before the season was not going to give up that job lightly. And here he is leading the way and at least keeping them in game so far.
Yeah, I'm really impressed with Billy Hall. I watched him in person. His maturation process between week 1 and week 2 was insane. I told him after the game, man, I've never seen a quarterback get that better in 1 week. He improved so much. He developed chemistry with the receivers. They got a great receiving core down there. Carlos and Contreras. And then they got Donnie Corley, who I think is not even on a team anymore. I think he got cut in training camp, I'm pretty sure. So, I mean, that's crazy to say, but they got a really great receiving core. Their offensive line has definitely gotten better. Still needs help, but it's doable. Defensive side, Claude and Laranji got cooked on SportsCenter top 10, so he just needs to lock in and go back to playing DB like I know he can. On Tulsa's side of the ball, I would say, Daniel Smith, he's played good. I think he knows more than anyone that he needs to improve his play. He's really hard on himself, so he knows that. Josh Crockett, they need to get him more involved. Other than that, I think Tulsa's defense is the only problem, in my opinion, for them. Their defense, I mean, they need to call Coach Shady, honestly. Like, their defense is a little shaky, but really shaky. I mean, especially the linebackers that they got in Tulsa. Like, last year they had Gibson Zaya, and they were not able to fill that hole. So, I think it's going to be a great competitive game. At the end, I have Sioux Falls coming out with a win. I'm going to say Sioux Falls by 7 to 10 points.
Okay. Coach Trey, we'll go to you for the San Diego and Arizona game. Arizona is a surprising 1-2. San Diego is another one of the undefeated teams. What do you think about this game? This is in Arizona.
Like this. It's crazy you asked me that because I remember when I picked on San Antonio to beat San Diego, and I had a brain fart with that. Because I should never go against Nate Davis. I should never bet against Nate, right? I'm going with San Diego, man. Arizona, like I said in the previous show 2 weeks ago, Arizona looks to be in a rebuilding phase. And like I said before, those top tier teams are starting to trickle down a little bit, and the other teams are starting to get traction to where Arizona just don't have the same effect on the recruiting process as they used to have. And when they lost Powell, that was a big deal. So you know, whenever you have a quarterback that's been around that long and you have to start over, you're gonna have a few struggles. So I'm gonna put my money on the strike force and Nate Davis because Nate got magic and he got a little cast around him. Offense, they defense fly around. So I'm gonna go with the strike force on that.
I think that's honestly a pretty solid pick. You know, obviously they're 2-0 for a reason, and part of that is, in my opinion, the Peyton Manning of the indoor football world, which is Nate Davis. You know, you watch this guy play, and we talked about it earlier that most other IFL teams need mobility in their quarterback. Nate isn't going to run a whole lot at this point in his career, but he's still going to dice up 9 times out of 10 any defense you put up against him, just because of his ability to pre-snap adjust and set himself and his team up in a good situation to be in the correct play 9 times out of 10. So moving on to the next game, we have Bay Area at the Tucson Sugar Skulls. And I'm gonna take a page from Chris's book, give myself a little pat on the back here. Malik Mitchell, that was a guy I was recommending to teams before the season. Several teams passed on them. I'm willing to bet several teams regret passing on him at this point. He's played extremely well. You know, shout out to him. He's a rookie with the Tucson Sugar Skulls, and he's been able to take over that job. You know, they brought in Jeremy Hickbottom. They had one other quarterback that is escaping my mind at the moment, and they had an open competition. And Malik, as a rookie, came in, won that job, and has shown why. He's extremely mobile. He's had, you know, a couple games where he was flirting with 100 yards rushing in the game. So this is going to be a tough game for Bay Area, although I do think they ultimately will pull it out in this one. I just think their defense is too good with Rob Keefe there, and you also have Dixie Wooten on the offense. I can't bet against those guys. So, you know, as much as I want to say Malik's going to go out there and change the game once again this week, I just don't think he'll quite have enough in this one. But keep an eye on him. He's going to be really good in the future, and it wouldn't shock me at all if CFL teams are already taking notice of what he's doing in the IFL. Omar, it's completely up to you, sir. I know you're more an IFL fan than you are an NAL AIF fan, but you're welcome to stick around for the conversations on those leagues. We're going to move over to the NAL now, which, as you all know, also had a Friday night game, which was pretty awesome. We had actually a Friday night game from every single of the leagues that we're going to discuss today. The NAL's game last night was the Colorado Spartans versus the Sioux City Bandits. And first thing I want to do when we discuss this game is I want to get your guys' opinions on this Sioux City Bandits offensive scheme they've been running. This wishbone style where they have 3 backs in an indoor football offense. Omar, you and I have talked quite a bit about this. What are your thoughts on this offense making its way to the indoor football world? You're coming in really quiet, sir.
Oh, sorry. But I'm saying I'm a triple option savant. So I mean, it's not exactly triple option, but I like the 3-back scheme, and I kind of like the mentality where it's like, we're going to come at you with 2 lead blockers and you try to stop us. Like, that is, I think honestly too, it really fatigues the defense. I guess not the front 7, but I guess it would be the front 4. Fatigues the front 4 a lot more over the course of the game, just running just with the inside run over and over. So I'm a fan of that different approach. And it's like, I think we see this game as the game of football in general, 50-yard game, 100-yard game, shifts more towards being a pass-centered game, where teams like the 49ers that are physical, that run the ball, are harder to prepare for and harder to recover from the following week. And I just like the way that Sioux City is, I think, just making that their mantra. We're going to be physical. We're going to wear you out over the course of the game, and you're going to have to outlast us. So it's a unique approach, and it's definitely hard to prepare for, and it kind of offsets your rhythm in the season, where it's like you're prepping for all these pass offenses, and then boom, you got Sioux City in the middle of the season, 3-back offense. Okay, we have to switch our philosophy for this week and then switch back. So that's my thoughts.
I'm glad you brought that up, Coach Trey. I'm curious to see your thoughts on this. Obviously, you look at it a little bit different than we do.
Well, being one that played offense and schemes like that, being one played defense, as a lot of people don't know, I played Ironman ball in the IFL in 2010. I'm sorry, but Sioux City been running the ball and doing all the misdirection, trying to come downhill for years. It's easy to stop. You can stop that with the front four. You don't really, all you got to do is play gap control, field, have your Mac play discipline ball instead of overrunning plays. If he has to meet those blockers in the hole, none of those blockers are real blockers. If the Mac, when you have success with offensive like that, it reflects on your linebacker. It means that you need a new one. And we all know that the Colorado defense is not going to be a good defense. The Colorado is built to be a one-trick pony, which means they play for one possessions. They play for the one-possession game. They play for the last possession to win, just like this game turned out. But the coach has forgotten that you need defense. A lot of teams have forgotten that you need defense to win. So they lean on, it's kind of like when you talk about the Sugar Skulls. Mitchell is good, but it's the defense right now that's keeping him from getting those dubs. So that offense, I'm going to be honest. If I was the defensive coordinator, I'd have destroyed it. But I'm just a free agent guy who, I'm just here. So Sioux City really don't have nothing going to me with that offense. It's kind of a deal that shows that they really can't play the traditional way, so they're going to try and line up and pound you. So as a defensive coordinator in a defense, you have to have the mindset to be like, if this what you going to do, yeah, we gonna grind you into the dirt and show you that you going to have to throw the ball. And then if we got a good offense and you trying to do that offense, if we got Nate Davis up against that offense, do you know how bad that'll be? Because Nate puts the ball in the end zone like that. So if we go out, we 3 and out, 4 and out, them 2-3 times for this will look like a Columbus versus Amarillo game. That's what I think about it.
Which we will get to here shortly. That was a pretty bad game. Chris, if you're still with us, I want to get your thoughts on this Sioux City offense real quick, and then we'll go ahead and move on and actually break down the game.
Yeah, it's interesting. My boy Josh Hollins is the quarterback at Sioux City. I mean, he, that offense fits him perfectly, right? I don't know. I think it's interesting. I know Coach Negron and Mike Green have a plan to stop it though. So I'm not worried about. I'm not really worried about it, to be honest. I think you can only try it for so long. I think it's a smart scheme for sure, without a doubt. But I don't know how sustainable it is.
No, I definitely agree with what you said and what Coach Trey said. I think this is kind of an admission by Sioux City that they didn't necessarily bring in the passers that they needed to run a traditional indoor offense. But at the same time, I think it's also an admission that, hey, we've got the running backs to make this work. Let's do it. And I like it. I like the fact that they identified their weaknesses and they went about trying to find a way to make it through this season despite that. I personally I'm a fan of a quarterback that they have there that has not gotten a chance to play yet, but that's a story for another day as well. Hopefully Tyler can get some snaps before the end.
Well, Tyler was the starter to start the season. And he got benched.
I missed that.
Yeah, he got benched. Well, he got benched, but it wasn't really his fault. He threw a deep ball to one of the receivers and he dropped it. So, and then he got benched after that. So I don't really know how that was his fault, but yeah.
Hey, I'm not the coach. Otherwise, he would be the starter all year. But with that being said, we're going to talk about real briefly the fact that there was a game that was rescheduled in the National Arena League this week. And it was one that came as a surprise. I believe this was supposed to be Oklahoma City's season opener, but it was rescheduled due to quote-unquote scheduling conflicts. Now, obviously, on the surface, this is not related to scheduling conflicts. There's something else going on here. What it is, I can't necessarily say. But at the same time, you don't reschedule a game, 3 days before the game for scheduling conflicts. That just something's up there. So I want to go to Coach Trey first because I'm sure you've got some thoughts on this one.
Well, my thoughts are this. I think that they parted ways with Richard Davis, right? And Mark Timberlake is moving into the head coaching position. And I think Mark made a move to help himself rebuild, give himself another week to rotate some guys out, rotate some guys in. I talked to a quarterback the other day that he told me Mark had hit him up. So they needed it. I don't like how it happened because you need to play the schedule the way it is because that's the nature of the game. But if the league already showed that they would do things like, being here, being there. So if that's the case, then why not be like Donald Trump and use the things to your advantage? It's like when you file your taxes, if you can, use the loopholes, use the loopholes. So I like it in that fashion that he's smart enough to know the position that his team is in. He's smart enough to come up with whatever he needed to come up to get that game moved because that's probably the biggest game on the schedule right now, especially at home. So you get it moved, and now you don't have to worry about it. You get another week to prepare for the next team. And then you get some practice before you get to who everybody believes is going to be the team, right?
No, I completely agree. Obviously, everybody's a little worried about Omaha, but it's definitely a situation that piqued my curiosity. Anytime a game is moved like that, you kind of wonder why. But, regardless of what the situation is, obviously they've had a lot of change over there in Oklahoma very recently, which is interesting to see in its own right because this team is launched this season. So they changed ownership, they changed coaches, they do all this stuff, and it's right before their first week of the season. So, I think honestly, like Coach Trey said, this buys them a little bit of time to get things in order, and then they can go into the game better prepared with a new head coach and GM that, or head coach that was the GM previously that can kind of hopefully move forward in the right direction, even if it does end up being ultimately a loss, which no offense to any team, but Omaha is looking very stout right now.
I'll tell you this, though. When I read that Richard Davis was let go, I contacted the page. Who can I send my resume to? Mark Timberlake hit me back. We corresponded for a little bit, but I say this. Let me just throw a message to Oklahoma. You want to turn it around? Come get Coach Trey. I'm telling you.
I will second that. I tried to refer him to some other teams, but Oklahoma, you got a little bit of turnover right now. Now's the time to bring him in, and trust me, you won't regret it. I assure you. But Chris, do you have any thoughts on this changeover for Oklahoma, and then also the game being moved?
Yeah, I think this is a great point to before as a league, focus on your product before you go bash other products, right? I'm gonna be honest, right? Like, I'm not saying. Am I saying anything that's wrong, right? Like, no, I'm not. So, come at me on the Facebook page. But what I'm saying is I'm shocked by this, but I love Mark. I love Mark Timberlake. I think he's a great guy. I talked to him on the phone the other day. Like, Mark Timberlake's that guy. Like, he's the first person to ever recognize me for Shady Sports. So obviously, I'm a fan of him. But I think he's a good dude. I really do, and he's gonna turn that program around. In terms of Richard Davis, I think Coach Davis is a great coach. I think he just needed to get out and he needed to go in a new system, right? And sometimes we need change. I think change is healthy. And I think this was a time for change. I think Coach Davis hopefully we'll find another home. Or if not, he had a great coaching career. So that's really all.
It's definitely going to be interesting to see exactly what happens with Oklahoma and Richard Davis. Omar, do you have any thoughts on this? I'm not sure if you even caught the news, but basically the Oklahoma game and Oklahoma versus Omaha game was moved back, I believe, to May, if I'm not mistaken. So quite a big gap there, just probably based on the openings that they could move it. But I'm curious what you think about this.
I echo everyone's points. I mean, scheduling conflicts does seem a bit weird because these venues get booked out before the year. I mean, that's how the league makes its schedule. So I don't want to I guess gossip and say, oh, is there something going on behind the scenes? But I can't help but be suspicious about it. And it's just not as great a look for the NAL that got poached by the AFL and the indoor league as well, and the indoor football league as well. So I just hope things get resolved. But I look at the NAL from I guess a bystander perspective, someone that follows the IFL more. I just see how spread out the league is and how it kind of doesn't have an identity, and it just kind of troubles me, kind of troubles me a bit. But that's just my thoughts. I just hope the league can figure it out. And I hope Oklahoma can figure out that situation because I'm not sure if the NAL had a team dissolved this year or if that was the AIF. But I know that there was a team that dissolved before the start of the year, unless I'm making stuff up. But I could have sworn there was one that dissolved.
You are not. Topeka fell apart.
Okay.
Coach Trey was actually on.
Well, he referring to Mississippi, who didn't play the game against Corpus, and
Right.
AI put them out. But I will touch on your note on the note of I disagree with the NAL being poached because the teams left voluntarily because they knew the CIF power move was coming. Because if you notice, the NAL really not it has a cloak of NAL, but it's CIF 2.0.
Oh, okay.
Everything changed. CIF teams came over in mass and pretty much made a power move to change the rules, to change this, change that, woo. And they seen the writing on the wall and got out of there off the rip. They had the resources to upgrade to the IFL. Now I can't say that the ones who left and went to the AFL upgraded because I don't know what's going on with the AFL because they don't have any information up on the website or anywhere else. It's all kind of like what he was saying about the IFL, but worse is you can't get a roster. You can't get any information on anything AFL unless you do a meticulous research project, and that's the only way you're going to find it. But I just wanted to say that.
That's fair to a certain extent as well. The lack of information around the AFL is a big reason why a lot of people have questions about it. If that wasn't an issue, maybe they wouldn't have as many doubters. But that's also a story for another day. There's a lot.
I'll say that, and I feel like they still would have doubters though. Like I not as many, but there's always going to be people that are going to want to take down a product before it even starts, and that's been more than clear. I mean, it's getting to the point where it's ridiculous. We can talk about a certain IFL owner spreading lies about the AFL, saying how teams are folding, saying how teams are not. Literally going on their podcast. I'm not kidding you. This is before training camp even starts for the AFL. Guys are out of housing. They're struggling. They don't have food. They're not getting paid. Saying all these lies, but that's okay, right? The league lets that slide. But my Max Pirates get in trouble when a player defending themselves against an abusive fan, right? So it's just certain things like that don't double standard to me, right?
Every owner has them. It's amazing how much everybody wants to point fingers, but if you really dig on most owners, they've all got skeletons in their closets. Every single one of them. Everybody just likes to point fingers, and unfortunately, ego is very involved in team ownership. And that's not necessarily a shot at any one league or any one owner to any extent. That's just in general. Obviously, pride's a big reason why you get involved with ownership. My team's better than yours. That's why we play the games, to be quite frank. So obviously, ego's involved in every facet, but unfortunately, it's very involved with how these leagues are arranged, what owners do, and et cetera, et cetera. But one of the big subjects coming out of this week for the NAL is the fact that only one game really counts this week, given the fact that they moved the Omaha and Oklahoma game. So the other two games this weekend is Peach State versus Carolina, and it's Las Vegas versus Idaho. Las Vegas and Peach State are not part of the NAL. They're both outside the league, non-league opponents. So both of these games amount to exhibition games. Krish, we talked about it. Apparently, we lost Krish. So Krish and I talked about this off camera briefly, and like what we don't quite understand how this all works and why it works, because it's kind of interesting to kind of see how there's exhibition games in the middle of the season. We're going to see probably a lot of backups tonight, which can be a good thing and a bad thing. So, it might create a worse overall gameplay tonight, but it might create better gameplay down the line should any of these backups have to play. So, Coach, from a coaching perspective, I'm curious of your thoughts on this. Like, if you were the coach faced with an exhibition game mid-season, how would you approach it?
Oh, we going out there training camp 2.0. And we going out there to break them up. And that's why what I tell these guys who have these teams, I'm trying to put me one together. It seems like that's the only way I'm going to get back into coaching is to get one of these teams and be an exhibition team that go in and bust their head and get noticed that I know what I'm doing. But anyway, it's cool, but they had to, with Topeka and the Bulls falling out, it was going to be some holes in the schedule. Like I said earlier, CIF 2.0, it only surprises you because it's the NAL. But like I said, if you're really thinking about what the NAL really is, this has already been going amongst these teams. You go out, it's not going to be a bunch of backups. It's going to be the starters. You're going to try to score 100 points. Now you might end up putting the backups in, but you're going to try to go in and clean up all of those things that you have, hindering you going that you already did with these games that you had previous to this exhibition. Now the thing about it is, I don't know how good Peach State ain't that good. Las Vegas Kings not that good, so we know it won't be a W. It's no question about it. It won't be a competitive game. It won't be anything. I don't even know. Like right now, we talking about it like it's not really gonna be a deal where they gonna compete. It's gonna be over real fast. But as a coach, you have to use those games. I like that somebody will do it, because at the end of the day, you need to work. A bye week where guys want to just hang out and not do nothing, or we can get better. And I'd rather get better and also be able to have those players have some extra film, while also knowing that film really won't help them based on the opponent. But it's a good game to kind of pass stats, which probably won't count towards the league stats anyway, most likely. But it's a good thing to get a couple of clips, if you can, to extend your highlight film for after this season.
That's a great point. Omar, what are your thoughts on exhibition games mid-season?
I like Coach's point about just getting more tape, figuring things out, just tying up loose ends. I think those all have value. I think for me, I just think there has to be a stopping point. Like, if you want more preseason games, keep them in the preseason, because I think having these games in during the season, while there's games that count in the season, from a bystander's perspective, it looks tacky and it kind of hurts the legitimacy of the league. And I think I know the Peach State Cats. I mean, that name sounds familiar because I'm sure they've gotten beaten plenty of times, if not by the Cobras. I'm pretty sure by Columbus. So it's almost like they're the Washington Generals in a way. But yeah, that's just my thought. It's like, you can, if you want 3 to 4 preseason games, then have it. but at the beginning of the season, like not while there's games that count in the standings, because it really hurts the product, honestly.
No, I would agree. And speaking of running up stats, we're going to move on to the AIF, and you'll see why I'm talking about running up numbers here in a second. But like I said, every league had a Friday night game last night, and the Friday night game for the AIF was the Columbus Lions versus the Amarillo Venom, and this was in Columbus, by the way. And Columbus proceeded to beat the living snot out of Amarillo 75-27. I mean, this game wasn't even remotely close. Coach Trey, I'm sure you've got many thoughts on this one. Let's go to you first.
Well, Amarillo not looking too good. Me being a West Texas boy, I'm an hour and a half from Amarillo. I was supposed to coach in Amarillo. The reason that I resigned from that position before the season started was because I seen this coming. I kind of took notice to some mentality things during my conversations, and they just not there. They got a lot of players that don't know what they're doing. Columbus is probably the most experienced team in the AIF when it comes down. They got Fortson, they got Deloach, they got the coach actually, has history with that team. So when you go into Columbus, I played at Columbus when I played with the Albany Panthers way back in the old PIFL. But Amarillo has to make some moves. I'm actually going to Amarillo Monday, and I'm going to sit in on the practice. I talked to Coach Kranz probably 2 days ago, just asking them what type of players they need. They DBs are too big. They've switched out DBs. They looking for these 6'3", 6'4" guys. Those guys are not going to be able to run with anybody. If you noticed in that game, the receivers was wide open all the time. The DC is a rookie. He doesn't really have a grasp on what's going on. They need a new Mac. They need new D linemen. Both of those quarterbacks are horrible. They have a quarterback down there by the name of Vernon Sharp who played with the North Texas Bulls, who was developed by Coach Mann, who they need to really give an opportunity because he'll change the dynamic of their offense if they do it. But they do have a lot to do on defense. They need 3 new DBs. They need a Mac linebacker. They need D linemen. Then we really don't know what the receivers can do because the quarterback's play is so bad. And then I'm going to say this. The offensive line and the fullback are blocking nobody. So if you go on West Texas Arena Football, they put an article up about that first week, and Coach Kranz was in the comment section. And whenever a coach goes into a comment section to defend his team, he know what's going on within his team, that his team not good enough. Because we let the spectator speak. We let the spectator be the spectator. We don't defend ourselves to spectators because spectators are going to be on both sides of the spectrum. So we let all spectators talk. We use all information to get our team together and get to where we need to be. We don't go in comment sections and make excuses and things of that. Like I told you before, that's part of my scouting process when I'm a defensive coordinator. How do the head coach talk? How do the OC talk? If he speaks about deserving, he makes excuses and all that, I know his team not ready because his mindset trickles into his team. My mindset trickles into my team. It's a chess match. So if he don't have an understanding that he has to have the right mindset to face another guy's mindset, then it is what it is. No excuses, none of that. Amarillo is in a real bad position right now because they're suffering on the field and they're suffering off the field when it comes to attendance. And that's mainly because their head coach and their GM is the same person. So he has to decide which one he's gonna do. You also have to take into account their tagged OC is in Ohio the whole week. He's not at practice. So we have things going on. Rookie coaches who couldn't really commit to the game. It makes me a little upset knowing that I live up the street. I know the Amarillo area. I was in Amarillo for 4 days last week helping my mother move because she lives there. I know the high school coaches. I know the community. I sound like a perfect candidate for coaching in Amarillo. But at the end of the day, man, it's a lot of, like I told Chris on the first interview I ever did with him. You can do something today and have to do it right the next day. Amarillo has to get to the point where they have decided to do that next day and stop trying to develop players when you don't have time to develop players. If we keep going like this, it's no playoffs. It's going to be a hard offseason, and it's going to be hard to generate because we're not creating any resources on ticket sales or anything. You see what I'm saying? We also have to compete with the minor league baseball team, so we have to get things together. And what I did when I was in Amarillo was every store I went in, I asked them, what y'all think about the Venom? Nobody knew nothing about that the Venom was even back around mostly. So I'm saying they got a lot of groundwork to do to turn that situation around, but they have to recognize what they really have going on to do so. And when I get to sit down with Coach Crayons and talk, I'm going to try to talk him into bringing in all of those Bulls guys that's sitting on the couch or that's at home right now, some of those Topeka guys, and help. And if he can get that in, because right now they don't have a veteran core, and that's part of the problem. They don't have the veteran players holding those younger guys accountable and also who know something about the game. If you've seen the game, it was busted coverages everywhere. It was breaking the rules, not tilted linemen on the D line. This is stuff that shows when somebody knows the game and knows that the coach is not focused on the small and the minute details. And if you're not focused on the details, it's not going to work. If you have a car engine, if those cylinders or anything is off by a millimeter, it throws the whole balance off. So we have to have everything tacked in together for the machine to work. And right now, it's a lemon, completely junkyard. That's just what it is. So that's my take on the Columbus and Amarillo issue.
So, hey, that was a lot to be said, but obviously you got some insider insight that we don't have. So, Omar, I'm curious, do you have any thoughts on this game? Did you get to catch any of it?
I did not, but of course, like even me, not someone that follows AIF that much. There's only so many hours in a day, so much football to cover. No, I know about the Columbus Lions, and of course, like Columbus, they're essentially they're like the Green Bay Packers / Chicago Bears of the arena and indoor world. So they're always going to be a tough out. But I mean, I guess something that Coach said that caught my attention was the fact that no one had heard of the Venom. And it's always going to be an uphill battle promoting an indoor team. That's something I'm seeing down here in El Paso with the West Texas Warriors. Like no one knows about the Warriors, and it's just sad to see because if you are going to have a arena or indoor team
Popping real bad all of a sudden.
Oh, sorry. But if you're gonna have a market with other minor league teams, then your self promotion has to be on point. So it's just sad to see that it's like that in Amarillo, and I hope they get it fixed. I really do hope they get it fixed. And but I mean, yeah, just echoing all of coaches' points there. But Columbus continues to be a tough out. Yeah.
I personally believe that we're watching Columbus amidst a championship run as well. You know, I talked about that with Mass, but I mean, this game was unbelievable. DeAndre Brown had a day. I mean, that guy is a player. If you're the IFL, if you're the AFL, you should be keeping an eye on his name because he had 3.5 sacks in this game, 4 tackles for a loss overall, 7 quarterback hits, a fumble recovery, 4 tackles. And then overall as a team, they had 9 sacks. 9 sacks is insane in any one game. And for 2 players to have multiple sacks, actually 4 players to have multiple sacks, it's just unbelievable. Clearly there was just clear domination in this game. But hey, sometimes it happens. Columbus is just better than the competition around them right now, and I honestly don't think that's going to change anytime soon. It's going to be an interesting season for them because I don't see another team in the league that can run with them. And there's a lot of talented teams in the AIF. I'm not trying to throw shade at anybody, but Columbus is in a class of their own currently. But with that being said, the AIF has only, I think, one other game. Give me just a sec to pull up the schedule. This weekend.
Corpus versus Harrisburg.
Thank you. That's exactly what. And then there's also the Stampede are playing an exhibition game today at 7 p.m. Versus the Maryland Eagles, which I've never actually heard of. So,
who is that? Who playing now?
Harrisburg Stampede.
So they don't play the Tritons today?
No, it's Tritons versus Cedar Rapids, according to
Tritons versus Cedar Rapids. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. Yeah. You're good. That's the game that matters this week. So another exhibition game mid-season. Kind of crazy how this all keeps happening. But again, I think a lot of this was due to the fact that these leagues lost teams last second. So they kind of had to scramble to fill these spots. And, I would imagine the Maryland Eagles are not the first choice of any AIF team for an opponent. But I guess we'll see how the game goes this tonight. Coach, do you by chance know where Harrisburg's games are going to be broadcast?
That last game, I want to say it was broadcast on their YouTube page. The game they just played against Cedar Rapids.
Okay, perfect. So I'll definitely have to find their YouTube channel. That's one of the things that I've got a complaint about the AIF is their games are very hard to find. Sometimes you have to literally search out each individual team's YouTube channel, which is fine. It's just they need to do a little bit better job of promoting the links.
They need to do a better job at putting all the. They don't have anything. They deleted their transaction list too. Hard to find a roster, so on and so forth. No stats anywhere. It's not a good job. It's not really helping the players, and that's the whole point of it. And they need to do a better job at it.
I agree.
Somebody need to make some noise about that. The head coaches need to get together and get at the league administration about that.
I would agree. For what it's worth, it does look like there is a stream set up for the Maryland Eagles versus Harrisburg game on the AIF channel, and it also looks like there is a stream set up for the Cedar Rapids game as well. Those would, I think, be the first two games broadcast on the actual AIF channel that I've seen anyway. So kind of interesting how they've gone about this. But on one hand, I've talked about this off camera. I've never put it on camera before, but I wanted to point out there are some advantages to teams having their individual streams. It provides a little bit better availability to monetize those streams for each individual team. So if you're a team like Columbus, who is very established, you've got a lot of sponsors, now you can tell your team or your sponsorship team, you can sell in game ads specifically that benefit Columbus. And same thing for Amarillo and all these different teams that have this new availability to kind of brand themselves a little bit separate from the league, but at the same time still be in this league. So eventually, if it gets to a point where this league looks the right way, games are scheduled and broadcast, in a uniform manner to where fans can follow it and the links are very easy to find, I really think there are some advantages to the way they're doing things for teams. Now, if that all pans out, we'll have to see long term, but that's part of what makes this season so interesting. We've got 4 different leagues, indoor arena kicking off this season, and it's going to be really interesting to see how everything shakes out by the end of the year. We've already had a lot of turnover. I think at this point we've had like 6 teams drop out, if I'm not mistaken. So definitely an interesting season so far. Lots to come. Any final thoughts from either of you guys before we get out of here for the day?
Yeah, I want to throw some names out there, man. Some free agents. I want to throw the guys that I had out with the North Texas Bulls, the DBs, Jimmy Keys, Damaris Cooksey, Marcel Brooks. any teams looking to change the dynamic of your secondary, that's 3 names you can look for. You got Trey Harlan as a free agent. You got Chris Franklin Jr. as a free agent. We got some ballers at home waiting on an opportunity. You got a couple of linemen over with Topeka that's available. But as coaches, these coaches, it's kind of showing that these coaches are being hired without any type of relationship to this game over the past 5 years. And they really out here just freelancing on the recruiting. They don't know where to go. They don't know who to get. They don't really have an understanding. They have no relationship. They're trying to build relationships. But I'm going to be honest with you. The way I see it is some of these coaches is playing with the owner's money like girls play with money, buying Birkin bags and things of that nature. They just throwing money around and experimenting. And the owners is the ones that's going to suffer. And if the GMs, the owners don't decide to start looking and really doing what they need to do to get the right coaches. Coach Mann is at home. Coach Mann, every GOAT coach that you can name, Coach Mann dominates. Everyone from Heron and Solana to Corey Ross to whoever you name. So when we look at this indoor level, the indoor level is the only level where politics work more than qualifications in football. And this is what's holding this whole game back over the past decade is politics over qualifications. Meaning everybody wants a yes man. Everybody wants somebody that'll do something to somebody else because of how the teams fold or the business ain't right. They want coaches to go tell the players something that's not real. If you're not that type of guy, you can't be the guy. But honesty really has no recognition, no honor or anything within the indoor game in any league at this point. And we need to get that to a point where we have an understanding that the truth has to matter. So hopefully owners learn their lesson this year and they have the money to do what they need to do next year or in these next couple of weeks. Because I know week 4, week 5, week 6, some of these teams gonna start firing these coaches and looking for somebody to change it around.
I would agree. Omar, any last thoughts? Anything you got coming up that you want to shout out?
No, not really. Just the regular off-season content for college football. You can find out on Redshirt Sports and here. I'm beginning to write more as I follow the IFL more for the site. I want to thank Sam for sulking me back on from my college football, slumber. But yeah, just gonna check out the AAL2 tonight. Hopefully, the West Texas Warriors last the whole year. It's a really unique situation. So if you're anywhere near El Paso, just check out the West Texas Warriors because they're in an indoor league and they're playing outdoors. So I'm just really fascinated by the field setup and how everything will go. So that's pretty much all I have to say.
Let me ask you something. You with West Texas?
Yes, I'm in El Paso. I'm stationed at Fort Bliss.
Oh, okay. I got a guy out there that I mentor. One of y'all quarterbacks, FEIO.
Okay, I'm not familiar with the rosters because I haven't seen a roster on the site, but I'll look for him. What's his name again?
FEIO.
FEIO?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'll be looking for him.
He from Virginia, I want to say. So he out there staying in a hotel. He found him a job making about $2,000 a week out there. He say he working hard though, but yeah, he doing what he got to do to try to pursue his dream. And that's what some guys don't understand is that you gonna have to go there and make a way. It's a lot of guys who will look at the AAL or and not want to do it based on the dynamics of how it's set up, no pay, yada yada, depending on where you at. But you got to crawl before you walk. So I tip my hat to AO. Shout out to FEIO, man, for staying locked in for real.
Agreed. And on that note that you talked about with the free agent shout outs, a couple guys I wanted to shout out. Wide receiver Akil Greer, one of my guys. He's still looking for an opportunity. I'm kind of stuck in a tough situation right now. Quarterback Justin Arth, I will recommend him to any team that will listen. That dude has everything in him to be great, and most importantly, the football IQ to do so. So, those two guys, definitely check them out. There's Raphael Turner, who can essentially play any different position on a football field outside of maybe quarterback and wide receiver. That includes offensive line, defensive line, linebacker, fullback, a little bit of everything in there. I'm sure I'm blanking a couple guys, but if there's any free agents that you're looking for as a team, hit us up at Shady Sports Network. I keep a database of a bunch of different players. I will definitely refer you everybody I can possibly think of. We're here to help the players last and most importantly. So definitely continue to keep in touch with us if you're looking for any players. And most importantly, hit that like button, comment, subscribe. We appreciate everybody who tuned in today. Basically, it looks like we've had 30 to 40 live viewers solid most of this stream. So we appreciate you guys. The show's growing. This network's growing, and it's because of everybody who's tuning in right now. So we appreciate everybody who tuned in and watched. Make sure you hit the like button, share, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff, and we'll catch you in the next episode.
I'm a game changer. I'm a game changer.